You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Crime is a big concern in retail, and at convenience stores, tobacco theft is the new face of organized crime. That's what we're going to talk about today. Joining us is security professional Rich Marianos. He is a professor at Georgetown, formerly with the ATF, and he was one of the keynote speakers at the recent NACS Loss Prevention and Safety Symposium that took place in December in Dallas. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for both of you having me. It's an honor. The symposium went fantastic in terms of interaction and meeting good people. And this is a great forum to get more people involved in it that couldn't attend and bring to light something that's very, very important.
So we started out in the beginning by talking about tobacco. And obviously with your background at ATF, can you kind of just take us through when did or how did tobacco theft become so lucrative to organized criminal groups?
Well, if you would have told me 30 years ago that I would be sitting here talking about tobacco crime, I probably would have laughed. And I say that in a presentation because my work and my subject matter expertise, let's say, if there is any, is around guns and gang violence. In the last 20 years, criminals have realized that tobacco products are worth more than cash in the drawer. Some places they're being purchased. You can buy a pack of cigarettes for $5, $6 a pack. They're being sold in Manhattan for over 20. And the price differential makes it extremely lucrative for crooks to go to states where there's lower taxes, sell them on the streets, the higher taxes, and make more money than they ever made in narcotics, cocaine, heroin, illegal marijuana. And word of mouth and profit margin, other organizations are seeing it and they're jumping right into it. Years ago, for those of us that saw Goodfellas, remember we saw Henry Hill getting grabbed by the police when he's a kid selling cases of cigarettes out and trying to give cigarettes to the police to pay him off. And hey, what are you talking about? I know about this stuff. That had went on, but it's not to the level that it's happening now. And why I say the new face of organized crime and why it's important is because everybody is involved. It touches everyone, from high-value targets, terrorist organizations, organized crime, street gangs, low-level wolf pack crews. It's a high demand product that people are going to, and there's low level enforcement. So it makes it a perfect storm.
One of the things that, just teeing up what you said about low enforcement, is we heard it a few times. You said it in a presentation and another gentleman said it in a presentation, is that it's not sexy, right? Tobacco theft is not sexy enough. What did you guys mean by that? I meant to ask the other guy what he meant by that too.
Well, straight up tobacco crime, if they're depriving the state of tax money, okay, in the case of, all right, New York has we keep using New York. I hate to beat up on them, but they're going to get hit on the head. If their taxes are extremely high or their regulations are extremely high, people will go across state lines, bring it in, not pay the tax to the city, not pay the tax to the state. Tax cases, unless it's a politician or a celebrity, really don't gather the attention that are important. But what people need to understand is, all right, if you don't think that's sexy, let's take a look at some of the other things that are happening around it, and let's look at whatever you consider the sexy stuff. Like the carjacks, the tractor-trailer hijacks, the stick-ups at the convenience stores, the shooting among the gangbangers or the gang members for territory because they're selling loosies for $3 a piece. Or some of the terrorist organizations that we've dealt with and worked undercover on with ATF, where we were trading tobacco products for China white heroin, automatic weapons. Those are the targets that if our politicians and our what I want to call law enforcement professionals or leaders don't think are sexy, they need to find another job. And I may agree with we don't have a lot of resources to go after simple tax cases, but there needs to be a threshold. If somebody's making tens of thousands of dollars a day ripping off the economy, those I consider sexy because that's not a mom and pop crime.
Right.
Or organized crews that are going from convenience store to convenience store to convenience store up and down the highway, doing armed robberies for tobacco products and not going to the cash register, playing the Santa game where they throw down the tarp, they load up all the cigarettes, put it over their back shoulder and go. Those are public safety concerns. Those are quality of life issues. And for those who don't agree with me, they need to go teach school. They shouldn't be in law enforcement. It's a disservice to the public and it's a disservice to the country.
Max has been talking about the disparity in taxes for an awful long time. And yes, you've said you're going to beat up New York. And we did too, because you would see, just like in anything else, when there's a price disparity, bad guys figure out that there's a way to play this game. So it is definitely a problem. And we would talk about how people would just have duffel bags and just sell cigarettes and they could sell them cheaper. But when we talk about whether it's the price disparity because of taxes or whether we talk about the term used, Santa, just grabbing the duffel bag full of cigarettes, how are they resold? We know that cigarettes are relatively fungible. You could probably get, 80% on value or some, maybe even higher. But how are they sold and moved so that people get money for them?
Well, many a times, let's just go to the robbery scenario, let's go to hijacking. They hijack a master cases from a truck. Then they will sell them back to the bodegas, where the bodegas will cut off the tax stamp and then sell them illegally across the counter, which hurts the business of the good convenience store that's playing by the rules, which are the majority of our people listening right now that want to do everything right and that are getting undercut by criminal organizations. And then let's take it down to the stick-up men and the armed robbers who know why pay for it. We'll go across the counter and steal as many as we can, flavored products or whatever they may be. And then they sell them in backpacks. They sell them on trains. They sell them in schoolyards. They'll sell them in alleys. They'll sell them outside the convenience stores or the grocery stores. And what people need to understand is when you increase the taxes so much or you put a prohibition in, it's not going to stop the demand. It never does. Prohibition doesn't work. And what happens in that case is they will go to other sources to get it, and that's the black market. And that is what is thriving right now and is hurting the legitimate business owner because they'll go across. I'll give you an example right now. Massachusetts has a flavor ban. They've had it for the last 10 years. Vermont has made over $1 billion in revenue because everybody's going across state lines. So Massachusetts is denied, and the good store owners and the good people in that state have been denied almost $1 billion in revenue because of this issue. It is right in our face. It's very, very important to understand. And that can be used for social programs. You want to talk about, okay, we don't have enough police service and can't hire enough cops. There's a way to do it with monies. There's a way to put it into education. There's a way to put it into social services. There's a way to put it into roads. But if you ignore it and you put in a prohibition, you lose every time. Let's go all the way back to the Volstead Act. We're repeating those same mistakes. We're smarter as a nation, but we're become lazier and lazier when it surrounds this issue.
Like what you said at the symposium, bad policy creates crime.
In 100% of the case, bad policy is creating these problems, and we're getting these feel-good politicians that don't understand what they're dealing with, or they don't bring together. And what I talk about is a holistic approach where they need to get together with the retailers, the manufacturers, the distributors, law enforcement, the entire group that has a vested interest, and come up with a strategy for tobacco harm reduction, if that's what they're looking to do, which I fully support. Let's get people away from combustible cigarettes. Let's look at alternatives. But instead of this prohibition that's not going to work and going to create more problems, let's look at good solutions. And the bad policy creates more crime and bad issues from start to finish.
You had mentioned some of these cigarettes are sold outside of schoolyards. So I would imagine there's not a whole lot in the way of age verification and things like that. So when we're talking about the problem, there's an awful lot of folks who, if you care about kids underage having access to cigarettes, this is an issue. If you care about taxes, this is an issue. And this supports organized criminal groups that can go into other areas and just spoil a community. So a lot of awesome reasons to really pay attention to this. But I want to pivot a little bit towards the retail and thinking about if somebody hasn't really been affected by tobacco theft at their stores to a high degree, what are the ways it's taking place at retail? I know you had mentioned some of the ways with distribution trucks or just robbing somebody just right at the counter, but what are some things that people need to look for if it's happening in their area or potentially at their stores, and what can they do about it?
Well, people need to be cognizant of those that are selling in backpacks or selling the loosies, because right now we know that those are stolen products or trafficked products. So anybody that comes up and says, "I got one," who needs one, we have countless videos, photographs of organizations that'll be outside subway trains, subway terminals. Also, be cognizant of people driving around staking out the area. On many occasions, we'll see, law enforcement that's identified a certain van or certain cars that have been used in these scores that have to be more cognizant in sharing that information with the rest of the convenience stores. So the minute that they would see, this suspicious white van, and the odds are pretty good that they're going to come in and bust open the windows and come in to, notify police immediately. We need to do a better job at taking those products and securing them at a different location. I think I mentioned it in the seminar. There's some great cameras and artificial intelligence now that you can put up that when people come in the store, you know where they go immediately. And a lot of it's for marketing purposes, that if I move my Ho-Hos and Twinkies over here, it shows that people will go there. But also do the same thing with your tobacco products. Make it difficult for the smash and grabs. Make it difficult for the robbers. And also, if they're selling products without tax stamps, or if you're in Nevada and they're selling products with Arizona tax stamps, to alert law enforcement or the taxation department that, hey, look, these are contraband traffic cigarettes. And that also falls in the line of vapors, the vapor products that are illegal. So it's important for a lot of pressure by the community to bring this subject to make it uncomfortable for the bad decisions.
What are some of the ways, just that you haven't been in the law enforcement space, what are some of the ways that retailers who may not have the solid relationship with local law enforcement, because maybe they've never had to have it, but it's kind of the same vein of a food safety incident. Your health inspectors don't want to hear from you from the first time when there's a foodborne outbreak. Those relationships need to be built. So what are some of the ways that you think would work for retailers to reach out to local law enforcement and build that repertoire so that when there are incidents, they know exactly who's calling, they know who they are, they're strong members of the community, and they can get that support that they need?
I think one of the best things that law enforcement executives need to start doing is understanding who their audience is. It's important for citizen academies to have law enforcement reach out and work with the citizens, but it's a two-way street. I think that if they put together shortened versions of academies with retailers, so they got to know them, they got to know the retailers, they came in and developed a relationship, who their commander was, how many officers he put on the street. It's simple to what kind of coffee do they drink? You know what I mean? Make it comfortable so they know that when I come into the gas station, who the guy is, what time they're working, what the hours are. They've been to the academy. They understand police response time. They understand, how busy they are, what their function is, what units work on what, how they deal with things, and also to get a tutorial from, if I was the chief, from my officers on what is important for them to know in these patterns and these situations. Websites are phenomenal right now for able to put up information on this type of vehicle is used in a string of robberies of convenience stores. Be on the lookout. Or this is the number if you see suspicious activity to contact. Things like that are extremely important because cops aren't going to solve problems behind the wheels of cars, and convenience stores can't solve the problems behind the counter. There has to be that interaction. And we do, again, with citizens academies, we now need to do it with retail academies. And I'm not talking about, oh, I have to spend 6 months on my Thursday night with the police department. This could be 4 weeks through a quarter period where you just come in and you have that important dialogue and they share what they need to do and like not be the police, okay, for these cashiers and store owners, what they shouldn't do to protect their own safety. Don't try to be a hero. That could be one specific lesson plan. Another one is what to look for. I could go on all day, but you're actually right, is we need to develop a more collegial relationship with our store owners and our law enforcement, the good store owners, so they feel comfortable, like with this epidemic with the vape shops that the FDA cannot get their hands around, to be able to contact law enforcement and say 100% of their product is Chinese criminal vapes that are illegal, contraband, and how do we get them out of the marketplace? Being able to talk to law enforcement, to talk to the tax people, to talk to the people that are doing the inspections. But if you don't know who they are or what their function is or a way to do it, it won't get done.
And obviously, one of the issues, positive with our industry and retail overall, is there's been such a good job with cash management and keeping $40 in the till, $50 in the till, whatever number it is. And that means that tobacco is way more valuable, as you said, than cash, because if they know they can only get, there's a time release drop safe, and the most they can get is a couple 20s, it's really not worth the criminal's time. So then they look at what's a carton of cigarettes cost, and what's that value, and it's probably worth more than what's in the till. You add to that, and it's exponential. You deal with the truck, and then you go exponential beyond that. You had talked about how retailers can work with law enforcement, and can you speak a little bit about the Tobacco Law Enforcement Network and what goes on with that, and where retailers may fit in?
Well, the Tobacco Law Enforcement Network, and I'm glad you brought that up because it was put together by several executives that have worked tobacco cases or that are dealing with these issues. They're law enforcement officers, but there's also other people that are included. We have school resource officers that are involved. We have counselors, law enforcement, investigative professionals, some that have worked undercover in this arena that have bought these products or traded them with high-level targets. But the idea behind the network is to solve problems and help the good people out there and bring this awareness to the politicians and to the community. And understand what is the underbelly of this new organized crime. The good things that it does is, like in the vape arena, it identifies how these kids are getting these contraband products, who's selling them. And it gives us an opportunity to share that information with law enforcement in the area to go in and make those inspections and take that stuff away. The school resource officer, in terms of what they're seeing, what the time constraints are, what we will talk about specifically is school resource officers now are spending 8 out of 10 hours a day on vape referrals. And we've been getting away from the cyberbullying, the looking for where guns are, where the narcotics are, where the fights and things like that they are asked to serve and protect. Now they're regulating and harassing. We have agents and police officers who this has been their focus for the last 10, 20 years in terms of patterns, how they work, who's involved in these things, who are the gangs, how they set these things up. who connecting them with other law enforcement entities that have had successful investigations and can work in conjunction with them. A lot of it is putting the parts together and then also testifying in a lot of these hearings to bad policy and bad ideas. Right now in the city of Denver, they're going gangbusters that they think a flavor ban is going to stop tobacco trafficking and it's going to stop kids from smoking and it's going to lower their smoking rate. Well, without any knowledge or sitting down and looking at the numbers or just the evidence, kids are smoking less than ever. It's like 19%. But vapes are up in the high 90s. With that being said, why do you want to force an illegal market and have all your people bringing that stuff in when you're not going to be able to control it? Have a strategy in Denver where you can put together a law enforcement strategy, where you can put the education strategy and work with your businesses, your convenience stores, instead of knocking them out of the marketplace. And that's in essence what they're going to do. I guarantee you, if this passes, Denver will lose money. It'll shut down businesses. It'll create crime. It'll disrupt the marketplace. And we don't want to see that, especially right now in this economy. We want people to have jobs. We want the economy to be proactive. And we want our police to go out there and protect. And what they're doing right now with no thought whatsoever is going along this route. So the network is designed to especially deal with right now this problem in Denver and hopefully advise them through some hearings and testimony. These are your problems and why they exist.
And how do people find out about the network? Is there a website, or is there a way to join or learn more about it?
It's right now, we'd love for people to join and be part of this thing. It's currently being built right now, the entire network. I know I talked to Christine a little bit during the conference, and what I will do as soon as we are up and running, because money is everything right now. And we're using peanuts and dimes and quarters to put this together. But as soon as we can, I will ask Christine to post it and get it out there. And then we want people, and we're looking forward to working with the store owners in the industry and law enforcement on this.
Yeah, we will certainly do that.
Well, thank you for joining us today and kind of walking us through what a big issue this is and what retailers can do to make sure that it doesn't become a big issue at their stores. And much more to come on this, because crime has been top of mind for a lot of people for a couple of years now. And it's going to be a topic that will continue. We will have additional loss prevention and safety symposiums, and stay tuned for more. But Rich, once again, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you both so much, and look forward to working with you again.
And thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.